very familiar with many of you. So thank you for taking the time to come with us. Because today I'm not the only woman in the room, of course, and I'm not the only one who's not an engineer, and I'm less young. And we can see it at Enlit. We are surrounded by talented people from all ages, from all races, and from all genders. And that's quite a progress, quite a journey we've done over the past years. So the big question is, why are we still talking about gender equity when progresses have been made? Why do we need to keep on shedding the light on amazing women in energy? Because while we've come far, the gaps are still huge. Women make just up to 22% of the oil and gas workforce and 32% in renewables. And in leadership and technical roles, the numbers are even lower. Besides, women in energy still earn nearly 20% less than men. You see the kind of systemic barriers we face? I've experienced it myself, feeling the pressure of constantly prove I belong, the constant need to fight this kind of imposter syndrome. But it's not about number or representations. The reality is that women, and particularly in vulnerable communities, bear the greatest brunt of climate change. Did you know that 80% of those displaced by climate disasters are women and girls? But despite carrying these burdens, the women are often excluded from the decisions that shape their futures. But overall, it's not a women issue, it's not a gender issue, it's everyone's issue, right? And if we're serious about the energy transition, we need every voice at the table. We've all seen how diversity drives smarter, more comprehensive solutions, because a room full of the same perspective will never bring about real change. Hence, this session isn't just about celebrating our achievements. We have to do that. Brag a little, we need it. And best practice from businesses. It's also about learning from each other and sharing the real and often messy challenges that we face. Because we are not here to be the first in something. We are here to make sure that we are never the last, that we pave the way. So let's have that conversation today. Of course, the audience can ask as many questions as they want. But let me introduce you to my panelists. So I have Lara Bears of Kraken Technology. I have Flore Patradelon from E.ON. Valerie Layan of Schneider Electric, Luca Mesozidona of Ionate, and Mariangela Di Napoli of Enel Italy. Thank you so much for making the time, and I'm sure we'll have a great conversation. So I would like to start with the question that might feel a little bit personal or uncomfortable, because there's no better way, right, to really kick off. So is there a specific moment in your career where you felt being a woman in the energy sector made a significant difference, either positively or negatively? And how did you navigate this situation? I see Valerie already making a little smile. Valerie, would you like to start?
Yes, so I have to admit that when I joined the energy world, it was 10 years ago. I come from a telco background, and it was a very male organization, very male-driven industry, and also quite legacy mindset, product focus, not solution, not digital. And I came with my experience in the telco on digital end-to-end solution. So I don't know if it's that or the woman power, but both helped to really change the way we consider how we sell to customers, how we engage them, by being less product, less legacy orientated, but rather coming with innovation, new ways of thinking. And it's true that sometimes we have a different perspective, women. So I use that to create relationship with what we call the end user, so the ultimate customer, because often we sell B2B, you know, B2B to B. So we can bring difference also by the emotional intelligence we have, right, as women. So it's something we have to cultivate, where often we differentiate, and we can really create strong relationship with customers.
Lutza, would you like to comment on that? Because on top of being a young woman, you also have a very different background, right?
Yes, that's right, Marine. I'm a neuroscientist who came into energy because I saw the pressure of having to come up with real solutions very, very quickly. And I think what stood out to me is that not a lot of people were paying attention to the problems. And I think that something that women are very, very good at is to make people care. And so I made that my mission. And you're right, and I just want to echo it. It's a very uncomfortable feeling to be the only person in the room. But what that means is that you're going to be memorable, you're going to stand out, and you're going to make an impact. So it's kind of up to us what we're going to do with that impact.
I can see Sarah nod a lot. So what would you like to add to that?
So I'm Lara, I'm with Kraken. I'm sorry, we've been bombarding you with our brand everywhere at this event. But I think it's just such an incredible opportunity, the transition that we're living in. And, I think that the internet and the platform revolution, which was mostly led by men who mostly benefited financially, career-wise, everything else, that this moment now with the energy transition, we are seeing so many more women now be able to be part of the solution. And we need, the technology is there, but we really need the talent. And when I look around now, I can just see so much young talent that's coming into this space, and really by using kind of our innate, I think, get shit done kind of attitudes and no BS, and really coming together, we can really, like, as you said, make an impact. And I think it's really important that we lean in this moment so that we are able to take advantage of this really, really special time in energy that the world is going through.
Absolutely. Please go ahead, Flo.
Yeah, thanks. Can you hear me well? No?
A bit closer.
Okay, I do it. Thanks. Maybe I would like to start with a very personal anecdote. So I started to work in the energy sector 20 years ago, and I was an expert in Central Asia. And in every meeting I had with energy ministries, I was mistaken for being the translator. So, and this is how everything started. That being said, I never left the energy sector because I think this is really where it makes sense to be right now. This is a fascinating time to be in the energy sector. And I would like to bring one more point. We've said about innovation. I think we need innovations, and conformism simply kills innovation. So we need better gender equality, that's for sure. Lots of progress has been made over the last 20 years. There is still lots of things to do. That's a combination of plenty of reasons. In my opinion, that's very about systemic reasons and very, I would say, insidious reason, which makes that women are still very much underrepresented. And I would like to stop on this point, which is that gender equality is definitely a societal concern. But I would say there is a business case in that, because at the end, as you said, that's about innovation. And at the end, so in the energy industry, I'm working for a distribution company. That's more than 2 million of new jobs which need to be created until 2030 to be able to bring the grid up to speed. And we need new kind of skills, things about automation, digitalization, grid smartification, data analytics, and so on. So I think at the end, so we need you, and that's your take.
Mariangela. Oh, before we switch to Mariangela, I would like to remind everybody that there is a networking drink at 4:30 and at the stand 5K10. It will be like a glorious occasion to continue the conversation, right? Mariangela.
Okay, thank you. I'm an engineer, unfortunately.
Nobody's perfect.
Okay. Just an episode, very little. When I was the executive assistant of a director of Enel Grids in the past, more or less 10 years ago, someone calls me saying, can I speak with the engineer di Napoli? yes, it's me. She said, okay, madam, I don't want to. So it's just normal for us. Now it's less difficult, but 20 years ago or 15 years ago, it was normal to have only technician, only men. It was difficult to be credible in our works, but it takes time. But now it's really, really, they appreciate now because we are a lot in NL. We have a lot of support from our company. Also, during my life, I have 2 children, so it's not so difficult because I just try to teach them that you have to see an example. So it's normal to have their mother that works more than my husband. So it's very, very impressive. In only 20 years, so what is the good difference that we make? So it still makes times, but we are in a good road now.
It sounds very cliche, but indeed the work-life balance conversation always comes down to women, right? We would never ask men who is taking care of the kids while you're attending a conference. But it's still something that in a way hampers, or at least some people will say, I cannot do this or that because I need to take care of my family. But indeed, when we prepped this call, Valerie shared a very interesting example of concrete mentorship, because some women really put their barriers on themselves, and there are ways to kind of overcome them. Okay? Yeah. Valerie, would you like to share your experience?
Yes, sure. So I think, yes, we have to help women removing their barriers. And I had a large team I was managing, and often I had some ladies in the age of 30s coming to me, it's a time I want to create a family, have children, so I need to forget about my career. That's often what the women were telling me. And I told them, no. It's possible. Look at me. I had 2 children and I still managed to develop my career. So it's possible, but we need to accompany them. First, as a manager, we need to give them flexibility. And I would say that actually since COVID, with a hybrid mode of work, we can give more flexibility. But 10, 20 years ago, it was sometimes difficult. So I remember myself having empowered also the guy of my team to be the support also for their family. So when they had their children sick and their wife were traveling, I say, work from home. It's better you work from home and you take care of your children and you will still contribute to what you have to deliver than taking a day off for the care of the children. So that's one thing. It's very important to really listen, care, and support women and support men. So it's also making the men part of the game. It's not a woman game. It's all our game.
Yeah, it's about support a society that cares more about people's balance and about those who need us the most. Fleur, would you like to comment on this?
Yeah, I would have... Sorry, can you hear me? I would have a few remarks on that one. So I think work-life balance is a real issue, but not only for females at the end. So I see by new generation that everyone, be it males or females, are trying to strike a better work-life balance. So that's the first remark. A second remark is that, as you just said, so we've got much more flexibility at work. So I'm used to say to my manager when I am in a hiring process, I do not need any reduced working hours. What I need is flexibility. And since the pandemic, obviously, we've got much more flexibility of 12 things about so hybrid working, for example. We have also in my company workstation when we can work so 20 days outside the company, abroad, and so on. So there is now the structures in place which help women and men to strike a better work-life balance. And maybe something from my experience. So I have been many times as an expat abroad. And I think so obviously when you're an expat, you don't you can't rely anymore on your family support or your network of friends. So what you used to be usually when you have a small child. So I have my first child in Paris. I have my family. When I moved to Germany 10 years ago, and then I got my second child, and obviously this is when I fully recognize, okay, now I'm alone. I am a working mom. I have a partner, obviously, but I don't have my family. I don't have the support. And more on the private side, I would say make your partner a real partner. That's a first suggestion I would have. We tend to forget about it. And second suggestion is we say there is an African proverb which says we need a tribe to raise a child. So when you are living abroad as an expat, for example, try to build your own community and to enter some kind of win-win relationships with working parents as well. Because obviously there is differences across country. In France, I was criticizing France when I was living in France, but compared to Germany, believe me, childcare infrastructures are much better in France than in Germany. So when you get a childcare place in a childcare infrastructure in Germany, that's only till 5 o'clock, if you are lucky enough, I would say. So then this is on you to find the right way to be able to conciliate work and family. But that's doable and that's feasible.
I mean, that's really interesting and empowering because in a way you also demonstrate that what matters is the leadership from the company, that you trust the people to deliver their work, whatever their personal situation, right? But in energy, we do, and in many sectors, but in energy, it's particularly critical that we only have, as I said, about 10% of women in leadership position in the energy sector. So how do we break those barriers? Lara, would you have something to share about this?
So I think first we have to lean in and show up. I think that men ask for raises and promotions 3 times more than women. In fact, a stat that I read said globally half women have never asked for a promotion or a raise. If you don't ask, you don't get. That's a motto that I tell my kids all the time. And then in negotiating, you ask until you get told no. If you haven't gotten to a no, keep asking. You're not gone far enough. And I really think that, I mean, you're right. In energy, we have really great leaders like Catherine McGregor, who's the head of Engie, like your boss, who had a fantastic keynote. I think there are examples, but there's way too many. And a lot of times, even if we do have executives at the top, there's that whole middle rung of male management that is fantastic. I work for really wonderful men. I've also worked for men and women that are terrible bosses. You can be a brilliant person and be a terrible manager. And so I think that really investing in yourself, and I'm a first-time manager myself, actually. I don't have some of the experience that you do. And I just try to run my team the way that I appreciated the best of the managers that I worked with. And a lot of companies do have a lot of flexibility. Mine does, yours does, but a lot of ones don't. Amazon is bringing people back to work and mandating it. And I don't think we can rely on our employers for work-life balance. We have to just say, I want a career, but I can't do it all, but some days I'm a really great mom and I take time off and I have a field trip with 64 7-year-olds and lose my mind. And then some days, like today, she's singing and I'm not there. I can't hear her in her concert, and it's hard. And you have to have those tough choices and be okay with it. I'm okay with it. It's going to be something that we have to all figure out how to balance increasingly.
Yeah, it's very related to the need to kind of prove yourself, prove that you feel that you are a good mom, prove that you are the best employee of the month, right? And those kind of things. But do we really have to be the best at everything, or can we just sometimes let things go?
Have some grace for yourself, exactly. It's the superwoman syndrome is real. Go look it up. You probably have all of the symptoms. I know I do.
Yeah, but we really need to have the T-shirt Supermom. Yeah, maybe something. It's something we could pitch to Enlit for next year, right? Lutza, please.
I just want to add, I am totally on board with go negotiate, get your position. But as the only startup on the panel, you can also just create it. You can just build it for yourself. Stop waiting around for people to give it to you. Just start from scratch. Sometimes that's the right way to do it. And I would really advocate for that, because in that case, you can build a company or build a community that is going to be fit around your life and giving those opportunities to people like you, and you will have all of that influence. So just putting that out there.
I totally second you because I'm just the same, sis. So yeah, please invest in the things and the people and the relationship that actually give you a lot of joy and give you a lot of power, right? Is it something that you feel you have experienced, Mariangela?
I think that in the energy sector is really a technical field. So sometimes it seems to be more for the men, but only because from the for the start, when they start to study and so on, they think that a lot of friends of mine said, no, it's not for me, maths is not for me, engineering is not for me. But it's just I don't know. In my experience, I have a lot of managers, engineer, not only engineer, that put a lot of effort. They go faster. They are more efficient. They can do both all together. Also, looking at the goal that we have, because with the energy transition, maybe it's more a matter of women more than a man, because we. It's a matter of life, the future, of our future. So maybe for us it's simpler to work with a good goal towards us. So for me it's normal to be involved more and more in this sector.
That's yes, please, Flo.
Yeah. When listening to all my colleagues, something came to my mind. So I think what really helped me, that's also the power of saying no, because everything comes with a trade-off at the end. And you need to be very much aware about the trade-off you are ready to do, and the ones you are not ready to do. That's the same about work-life balance. And that's the same be it a male or a woman, I would say, at the end. And saying no, at least I think so, and this has to do with more systemic reasons I was mentioning at the very beginning. But maybe for females, that's much more difficult to say no, but and to understand that saying no is not a sign of weakness, of a rejection, and at the end that this is not saying no to someone, but saying no, for example, to a business proposal, to take over a new project, a new task, a new responsibility, or to say yes, but to make this decision really based on a very sound assessment. And at the end, saying no, in my opinion, that's also about self-governance. And this is about having professional credibility. So I think learning to say no is really important as well.
It's really about learning the boundaries, right? Learning where our balance is, and that again we can't do it all. But now I have a question, really for all of you, and I will start with the floor because you have the microphone. Did you learn it the hard way, to say no?
I would say yes. I should be honest on this one. I think so. What struck me at some point in time is that I had the feeling so doing lots of work, really lots of work. And when I have been thinking, okay, so what I'm missing, because I have so great results. I'm doing so much for my company or for other kinds of organization, and the advancement, the career advancement, is not proportional to what I am investing into that position. And I've been thinking that that's really my point about saying no. So what I see around me is that many women think that there is no gain without no pain. And actually, I see very much this kind of spiral, which is much pain, no gain. Women taking care of very critical projects, but which are in a very shadowy, gray area, which fully lack visibility. And obviously, I think that exactly when we are asked, for example, to deal with kind of project, we have the right at the very end to say, no, I'm sorry, in these conditions, in these circumstances, I'm not going to take care of that project. So yes, I learned it the hard way, but I learned it. So that's a progression.
Valerie, I can see you nod very vigorously. So did you also learn to say no in the hard way?
Yeah, and I think I will rebound on what Flore said, because usually to prove ourselves, we have to do more than men. Or maybe we don't ask, but we do more. And sometimes we are put in a position of doer, of excellent doer, of fireman, or firewoman. And we are on that level where we are much needed for that, but never people or men or leaders think of us for the leadership role because they need us on the ground. So the way to say no is how to say, no, this time I won't be the fireman. Or this time I won't be the doer because I want to spend more time with you guys networking there because this is where it's happening. And because you send me in the mine, I'm not there. That's the reality of what's happening. I'm sure, Angela, you share the same, because I'm also an engineer. So we tend to want to do things, etc. But I had big teams, so I delegated, but I was still the one leading this team that are the doers. And that's what it takes to say no to some things we like to do because we are good at doing it, but to be more in that court that enable us to develop in the career.
Yeah, getting out of the comfort zone in a way in order to progress, but we get back to this kind of psychology track that you feel that you may not be in the right position to do it because you have a family to take care of or anything. But anyway, Maria-Angela, would you like to respond to Valerie because she really wants to hear from you?
I totally agree with Valerie because we need more visibility. Sometimes we put ourselves in a comfort zone because it's okay for us, it's okay for our family, and so you sometimes have a fear of change. For example, I just changed my job last month for me from a national regulatory work, a lot more technical, but only national level at the moment in a global work, new one. So I really fear, but in the first month, I really, really like it. So when you change, when you prove yourself, when you start knowing the reality outside, and not only hard work that we are able to do, you don't have to have fear.
Lara?
Yeah, I think I love what I'm still learning it. I definitely don't feel like I've learned it, but I come from like very much people-pleasing families, and I also, I think I have a high opinion of my own competence in most things that is probably misguided, but I think I can do it better. I can definitely do it planning trips better than my husband, so I do all the trip planning, and and then I'm just excellent at pretty much everything I try to do other than cooking. I'm really bad at that, but I think that you have to, I love what you said, Valeria, because I think until we lean back, other people can't lean forward. And we just, my husband says, I create all my own problems because I'm the one that'll always say yes. And it's definitely true. So I'm still learning how to say no. And I've gotten some good tips from you guys, but I think it's really important.
I love that. Lutza, would you like to comment?
Yeah, I'm going to echo the people pleaser comment, and I'm going to make a gross generalization in that I think a lot of women are raised to be people pleasers. In turn, society or their coworkers or their families absolutely take them for granted. So when you say no, you show them that empty space that was constantly filled by you that entire time. But because you're a people pleaser, I am a people pleaser. I'm not going to say you are, I don't know, but I am. And I feel like I'm letting them down. And I think what helps me, I'm also still learning, but what helps me is to keep my community in mind. And my community is women, and I'm doing a lot of what I'm doing to increase diversity and to do it for women. And they are the last community that I want to let down. And so if I have to make a trade-off, that's what I'm thinking about.
So inspiring. Yes, Flor, please.
I would like to add as well that this has not only to do with feeling good at living our own comfort zone, this has to do with to be the best in class. And so very often we are very much focused on delivering, what we think is critical for the company, and not enough looking at what it does bring to me and what I'm missing if I take over, for example, this kind of project or position. And I think we need to be very mindful about the trade-offs we are making when we say yes to something or when we are pushed into something without sometimes even agreeing on that. And we need to be very, very open as well and very transparent towards management as well. And this is our responsibility to make the case of what we are doing. And I think that's really important. And at the end, so that's also the magic of saying no, because when you say no, that's also an exercise you do for yourself. If you say no, you don't say no just because you want to say no. That's not for pleasure, right? You say no because there is a good reason for that. So you need first to reflect on what you need and what the company needs, and what helped me a lot on this one. So I'm still learning as well. So what helps me a lot is, okay, what is the value I can provide, I can deliver on this project, for instance, and what is the value or the sunk cost if I'm leading this project, for example, what are the other missions I will not be dealing with, and what is the lost value for the company? And it helps me a lot really to assess where I could bring more value and to make the case towards my management.
Absolutely. That's really so interesting. Now I would like to get into one of the elephants in the room, which is money. Yes. Let's talk about money, ladies. Let's talk about money. I would like to start with Luca, because we all know that the startup with the female founders do receive less financing than the one with the that belong to little boys clubs. So, Luca, what is your strategy?
So you're right in that startups with female founders receive less funding, but I remember the same piece of research from BCG citing that those startups that do have a female founder actually bring higher revenues. So they are the best investment.
Women.
Exactly. So I think, I don't know if I've got a strategy, Marion. I think it's about going after the right relationships and those who see the value in you, rather than, I think it's very easy to fall into the trap of having to prove yourself all the time and having to convince people that you're good enough. There will be people who will see that, and sometimes looking for the path of least resistance, and that can help you accelerate and get to where you need to go.
I see a lot of nodding yes. Lara, would you like to comment?
Yeah, I think that it's so with pay, I think it's like what you said. First, you have to talk about it. Women don't talk about it, and the people that work for me, we talk about money, and I actually encourage them to. I say, I want you to ask me for a raise, and I want you to ask me for a raise often, and we're going to talk about it. And sometimes I give it to them, and sometimes they're not ready, or I want to see more development. But we practice it. I say, okay, and then I'll say, we're going to talk about this. This is how we're going to do it. You take me to coffee. Because sometimes women just don't, they don't have that. And it's basic training stuff. And it's hard. And usually the gap is usually over fear, which everyone has. I'm nervous asking my boss for a raise, but he can say no, or she can say no. But if you don't ask, you don't get. And I think that being able to talk about money and have really honest conversations is really the first thing. Because once you have a conversation, everything else is kind of easier to go from there.
That's why we have this platform today, right? To make sure we also have those kind of uncomfortable conversations. Otherwise, we never move the lines. And that's why I didn't want to have like 10-minute presentation or slides or something. I wanted the audience to get inspired by everything you just heard, and how people can really move the lines. Either as young women, I see now way more women and men, but also as men as allies, because I think it's exactly where it makes a difference, right? So real life examples. Now I would like to ask you all, I will start with you, Mariangela. What kind of advice would you like to give to your younger self?
Oh, fantastic. Maybe no one. Because after a lot of years in my job, I was lucky. I was lucky because I had some parents that support me, even if I choose in the past a very strange study for me. I grew up in a little town in the southern part of Italy. So it was not normal to have an engineer in a family like that. I was the first one with a graduate and so on. So they support me in everything. And advice maybe is to ask for a new job, to ask for more money, to ask for this is maybe yes, because it seems that it's normal that if you work well, you will get something sometimes, but you have to push, to ask, to talk. So I am totally agree with my colleagues.
Push the doors until
More
you get
than I did.
you get to the glass ceiling, and then you dance on the glass ceiling, right?
Yeah.
Lutza.
Advice to my younger self.
Yes.
Okay. So I think, especially in the beginning of the career, we've come a long way, but still, it can very often feel like I'm the odd one out in the room. And I think it was in one of Michelle Obama's books where she talks about how she got into these rooms with these really important people and realized that they're not that special. I think that's the advice. I think there are super impressive, really smart people around me. I'm also super impressive and really smart. I'm not special, neither are them. Let's just have a conversation and let's stop being intimidated by them.
I love that. They are not special, you're special. We are special. Valerie, your turn.
Yes, I think what is very important, which I would told myself, is being very courageous. Because it's not a walk in the park. So we have, especially like my Angela, I'm also coming from an engineering background where you have a very, very little women. It's 15% roughly in the study, so less than in our industry. So being courageous, courageous to say no, courageous to voice, courageous to change role. This is something I have learned, not at the beginning of my career. I was called to change role, so I didn't have to ask. So it came naturally. But after some point, when you start to have this glass ceiling, then I took very courageous decision. I changed industry. I changed role. Sometimes I was starting a job, not a startup, but a blank sheet. And then as one of the CEO hired me, he said, "I don't know what to do. You decide." So it's almost the same. So we have to be courageous. And what I would add is, it cannot be alone. We should not be alone. We need to look for sponsor, mentor. And as more senior leaders, we have to be sponsoring, mentoring younger leaders, men or women. Because when you're young, you don't know. You don't know what you don't know. So we need to help these younger people, the ones that we detect as talent, to share a bit of our experience. We are not substituting to their decision, but we can shed some light. And I think that's also quite important. So overall, I would say progressively learn to say no, then have courage, take decisions that are courageous, that will serve you. Because if you get outside of your comfort zone, you learn faster. And then seek support, sponsor, mentor.
Yeah, we say that to go fast, you go alone, but to go far, you really need a team, and that's very valuable. And the second point is really about getting out of your shell to really see how the world is. Flo, what would be your advice to your younger self?
First, I would repeat what I've just said. So learn saying no. That's very important, I think. Then, so be self-confident about your own value. So, and don't wait for anyone to tell you about your own value. So that's up to us. That's our responsibility to make our case, to say this is what I bring, this is the value I bring, this is what I delivered, and to make it very clear towards management and towards everyone without being so, sorry for the word, bitchy. That's not the point, but really to to really to be fully aware about what we bring to the company and what we bring to a project and so on. Because what I've observed as well is that we are waiting very much to be recognized. But we need to communicate on what we are doing. And that's really, really important, I think. And what I learned as well, and this is what you say, this is we should not always go for the most painful path. The least painful path might be an option as well. And sometimes we should not go the hard way. We do not need as a woman always to over-deliver to be recognized. And that's very important, I think.
I love that.
I love that.
Yeah, no, I think I was thinking about this. I couldn't come up with anything for a while, so I'm glad I went last. But I think what I did a lot of when I was younger, because I'm in sales, I've been in sales my whole career, and it's a very male-dominated, beating of chests, big egos. And I think if I could tell myself something back then, it would be not to take so much crap or not to be pushed around. And I think that when you're young and when you're, trying to further your career, sexual harassment, there's just so much that I think young women deal with. And now I think this whole new generation has so much more of a voice than when I was coming up. And I definitely don't put up with anything. And I speak truth to power. And I call out my CEO if he's got, 9 men on his executive team. And I think that we have to challenge where we not, and this doesn't mean being complaining or, but you should be able to challenge when you see something that isn't right and stand up for other women. And I take it also really, really personally. I don't think we're building a ladder. I think you have to build a lattice. And my mission is to really help every woman at Kraken get promoted, get paid. I try to do it all the time, not just on my team, but in other teams where I see talent. I'll say, it's so easy. You just put in a good word. Hey, when's she up for her next pay rise? Or wow, she just did unbelievable. Have you thought about promoting her yet? It's just simple things that we can do that are really, really going to help lift this next generation. And they will take less crap than I did. They will say no more. They will, they'll be able to do things that I think I didn't have as a possibility or an opportunity.
Yeah, really about standing up for each other. I'm sure there are a lot of questions coming from the audience or things or you'd like to learn or tips you would like to hear. Of course, we will continue doing the drinks at 4:30, but in the meantime, please, it's really your occasion to ask these fantastic women about their wisdom. I'm learning so much and I feel so empowered. I really want to say, hey, that's such a great place and I want to work with all your companies because you seem to be such good businesses. So that's really super inspiring. And I hope everybody comes home with the fresh ideas and ways they can challenge the status quo. Because again, we don't only need it for ourselves, we really need for the sake of our planet and the people who actually live on it. So please, is there anybody who has a question to ask or a tip they want to ask? Oh, yes, I see a question out here. I see a question out here. There is a question. Yes. Yeah, there is a dedicated microphone. Yes.
Amazing. My name's Amy. I'm from the city of Rotterdam. And a month ago, I hosted a session on female entrepreneurship in the energy transition because we have a subsidy program, 44 startups, 0 female founders or co-founders. So I felt so ashamed and I thought we have to do something. And one of the things that we found also is that the businesses that are getting funding right now in the energy transition are super technical. It's a more efficient battery, a more efficient solar panel, and those are the things that get funding. And female, I'm also generalizing a bit now, but most female startups focus on the softer side of the energy transition, which I think is extremely important. So my question is, how can we value that side of the energy transition, which is crucial for making sure that we get there, rather than just the very tangible technical projects? Because I think that's what we are struggling with right now.
That's a really excellent question. Who would you like? Luca, maybe?
It's a good question. I come from a company that has the very, very tangible deep tech innovation. I'm not the engineer behind it. But I think that those companies, first of all, need to realize that interdisciplinary thinkers are kind of needed, first of all, to connect into the wider ecosystem, but also to be able to explain to people who don't come from that technical background what they are doing and why it's important. So that's one side of the question. The other is, how can we value more of what women are focused on in the energy transition? It's a little bit what Marine was touching on, that they see some of the social issues that maybe don't get that much traction, but they are super, super important. I don't know, you all should help us figure it out, because it's a community effort. And I think that we all need to just put support behind these companies and elevate their voices.
Lara, would you like to comment?
I mean, I think that Kraken's a software company and it's quite technical, but what matters is how it impacts customers, because the adoption of electrification with EVs, these are people like you and me that are spending their money on an EV or a heat pump or low carbon tech, and it changes their relationship with energy, and it's the biggest bill after their mortgage, and the programs now that I think are coming from leading and innovative companies and utilities that serve all of us are really finally getting some traction and speed, and it's about how to make those offerings compelling so that people actually want to take them up, and they see the impact and they want to engage. And there's just so many ways to do that that are going unexploited. When you've got, people think that customers don't care about their energy or their energy bill, and they only care when the lights go off. And we found that is unequivocally false. We had more people try to opt into a savings event during a peak time than people trying to get into Ticketmaster at a Taylor Swift concert. It crashed the site because so many people wanted to engage. And so I think it's a fallacy that's really changing. And I'm so glad that you did what you did. I mean, that's such a cool thing to do, to turn what is really, to your point, a real sad kind of state of affairs, and said, you know what, let's figure out how we can actually get to the root of that problem and get more women. I would love to be an entrepreneur. I just haven't gotten inspired about what to do that would be really, really different that I could add value to, but I'm going to think about it again.
Well, I think we could already pitch a matchmaking session at Enlit next year, right? Something, people with the social science background, with the, would you consider sponsoring it? Okay. Yeah, because we
have to think about the trade-off on that, amazing.
But we always need to get back to the money question. So yeah, that could be cool, to just get into like how we can practically empower women in energy, doing things that are different, with backgrounds that are indeed very different. I'm pretty sure they would appreciate this kind of feedback. That's great. Is there somebody else with a question, comment, idea? Yes, over here. Please introduce yourself when you take the mic.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Aaron from LCP Delta, and I work with a lot of heating technologies. I started out 15 years ago working on heat pumps. Only woman in the room, frequently had a heat pump installed, and the installer still wanted to speak to my husband, even though he knows nothing about heat pumps. So, personal experience. I guess it's a question to follow up on the last one, which is, you touched on the fact that customers do want to engage. We definitely see that trend. A lot of what the work we do is around how you can attract customers, engage customers for the long term. What are your companies doing to make sure you're engaging all customers, not just the men in the room? Because actually, frequently, it isn't the man who cares about the energy in the home or controls the devices or even the car. Women like EVs too, and they might have an EV on their driveway, and they might be something that you want to engage with. So do you have a different approach when you're approaching women to men? Is it the same?
That's a very interesting question also, because basically women throughout the world still do most of the household chores, but they are the least likely to be engaged in the energy conversation overall. So,
well, So I think at least at Kraken and Octopus Energy, we don't do. I really hated. This was a couple of years ago. It was like a trend in marketing where they have all of these different segments, right? And they love segmentation, and everyone's, and if you're not a soccer mom that's over 40, which I am, like I just think it's. I think that we are seeing now that kind of fall apart, right? We're seeing that actually people's behaviors change, and predicting them, while helpful, what you really want to do, especially in the energy transition, is figure out how we can really get as many people as possible and the widest audience. And women are a huge stakeholder, but I think that we shouldn't be, as marketers, I mean, I'm sure they do, but I don't, at least at Kraken and Octopus, we're not marketing towards women or men or another segment. We do have an algorithm that looks at people's usage and understands, that, hey, this could be a great person to go out with an offer from an EV. But I think you have to make it, again, it's just about making it easy. And everybody says that, and it's such a cliche, seamless customer offerings. But the fact is that actually a lot of that technical stuff in the back is where it goes wrong. You can have lots of visions on how to build a seamless customer experience, but if you don't have a billing system and a customer engagement system that's actually modern and digital and talking to each other, it's impossible to do. You're just going to drive your IT team crazy. So, but I think at our company, it's all very public, all of the different programs that we're doing, from demand response to EV offerings. And it's really the mission to bring the technology to the energy transition and make it better for the customers. I'm sure you guys probably also have things to share.
Yeah, what I will say is it's side to what was said before. It's really I believe we need to drink our own champagne. So
that's an invitation.
and the point is, when you want to touch customers, it's important that you touch them to the heart of what they do. So we have to taste it ourselves first. So I can tell you, at home, I don't cook. It's my husband who's cooking. But I own the energy bill, and I installed when I joined Schneider, because when I joined Schneider, I took on the responsibility of a line of business what we call connected home, and which purpose was to manage the energy, starting with the heating, the boiler, and the smart plugs and things like that. So the team was telling me, do it yourself, it's easy. Okay, I said, give me the kit. So I installed it, I programmed it, and now I use it. And I think this is more than thinking, do I sell to a man or to a woman, is who do I sell to? And can I be myself the user of what I'm selling? And I think that's very important also, to be credible and to build bridges and connection with a customer. Because when you start, I think Americans say, eat your own dog food. I prefer drink your own champagne.
So it's about setting the fridge in a way that keeps the champagne cool.
Exactly. So basically, it means you use yourself, the things you are selling, makes you closer to the end user, whether it's a woman or a man. And the cliche should not sustain, because I'm planning the travel for the vacation, because even if I travel a lot, I like to do it. I don't cook, and I manage my energy bill. So cliche or others.
But I mean, it goes back to what Lutza was saying earlier, really about trying to get the, let's say, embracing the whole situation, adopting a different perspective, and realizing that it's not because you're an engineer working at Schneider or Kraken that you are special. You're actually a human being, right? With all its nuances. Sometimes you are a super mom, sometimes you are a shitty mom, sometimes you are a soccer mom. Sometimes you don't want to hear about your children at all, and that's perfectly fine. Yeah, everybody with kids is nodding, like, yeah, I know the feeling. And and it's about embracing your humanity. And maybe we women are better at this, right? Embracing our own humanity, our own uniqueness. We have time for one last question. If nobody wants, oh yeah, here we are. Here. Please make yourself more assertive if you have questions. reach for the ceiling.
Hi, I'm Helen. I'm aiming to support smart local energy systems through knowledge sharing. What I'd like to ask all of you is, what is the part of your work that you'll enjoy most, that brings fun to you? What is that? Something that you're doing currently? Is that something that you've actually did in university already, or is that something that you do in your current position? What task or what current project was that brought you most fun?
Ooh,
Thank
I love the question. What do you like doing? Is it about, do you like speaking with me at the moment?
Yeah, maybe is it the networking? Is it management? Is it giving advice?
I love talking.
I'll start. So as my job, I'm sort of responsible, what I've touched on before, in translating what the engineers are doing and then making people excited about it. Going out networking is a big part of it that I enjoy, but I actually love working with the engineers. I love learning from them a lot. They are brilliant people and they're so passionate about what they're doing. It's not specific to my job. I'm sure that everybody has that, but I'm a lifelong learner and I just absolutely love that about what I do.
Mariangela, please.
Thanks. For me, is always connect dots. I always like, when I studied, now at work, to understand the big picture. This is the reason why I know what I have to do, because when you connect dots, you have the good strategy. You can start now, today, to do something to change the future, because I just read a very good sentence that said that the present is the first day of the future. So we have to work now. When you understand the scenario, the big picture is better in everything you will do.
Valerie.
Yes, so what I would say is, what is driving me is the customer needs. Listen to the customer. Even though I have a technical background, the issue in technical companies, sometimes you want to push your solution and you don't listen. So for me, everything starts, and where I have a lot of joy and passion is really being with customer, understanding, and then go back to the team and drive them to that need. That's really what I like.
Flore.
I think that's a great question. So I think so. What I like in my job is to be working for the energy sector. Some years ago, I was thinking about changing, and at the end, so I think that there's kind of beauty. But I've been working 20 years in this sector, and every day I think so. Oh, that's amazing. That's the right timing to be working in the energy sector, and that's simply because there is a sense of purpose, right? You are not selling, no offense for people maybe in the room selling shampoo, but we are not selling shampoo or ketchup. We are selling something which is vital for the economy and for the well-being of people. That's one thing. And in my daily job, what I like is that I touch upon many different kinds of expertise areas. I'm in touch with people having regulatory expertise. I'm having regular touch points with people dealing with very technical expertise, so electrical engineers, maintenance engineers. I'm also dealing a lot with digitalization, smartification, grid enhancing technologies. And I consider that I'm connecting the dots, exactly what you just said. And I think so. And my job is really to digest these very technical backgrounds with a S at the end, and to translate them into policy recommendations for policymakers. And I see myself as a kind of bridge, and I think at the end, this is what makes the beauty of my job. And that's what I like at the end.
I love the question. I think all of us need to think about what brings us joy and what's that spark. So for me, it's two things. It's impact. And so I'm very, very lucky to work for a company that's growing really quickly. We had 25 million customers last year. We're 64 million today. And then by the end of the year, it'll be like 85. And that's just from Kraken's explosion of growth and the impact that that's having for customers, like you mentioned, and also for employees, because quite frankly, when you go from legacy technology that's really, really siloed and old and cranky and sometimes mostly on-prem at these energy utilities to a modern, advanced cloud system that's easy to use for your employees. It's a big game changer. So the impact, and then of course, getting software that can build new products and services that are driving the energy transition. So the impact. I also just really love my team and seeing when you're working with colleagues that are like literally at the top of their game and just smashing it in a presentation or in a technical innovation. It's so much fun. And I've worked for lots of different companies, and where you work is such an important decision. And if it's not giving you that joy, get out.
I absolutely love that. And there is nothing more beautiful than women who thrive. So we had like 5 wonderful women today to inspire us. Unfortunately, I think we are reaching the end of our session, right? It was only 1 hour. But in 1 hour and a half, we have drinks at the Gentrack stand. So it's brought together by the Women's Utilities Network. You will be able to continue the conversation with our amazing speakers. Thank you so much for this amazingly inspiring conversation. We should have gone for hours. Thank you so much.